took a visit to Howard, but like a visit, like I really wanted to go. I went over and I drove around a little bit. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie to you, it wasn't even a visit. But I think part of the thing with us all going to the same high school, in high school you kind of looking around, you damn, right, where they going, where they think about going. I'm like shit, nobody around me really thinking about going to an HBCU and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And growing up, my dad coached at Central, so I always grew up over there. And I saw a lot of the things Central looked good as hell now, but it didn't look like that all the time when I was growing up. So I saw a lot of the lifestyle and stuff that the players they kind of had and stuff, and I was like, damn. Do I really want to go to HBCU? I don't know exactly how the facilities are going to be and stuff like that. So I decided to go to PWI. But I mean, I gave it some thought, but I didn't necessarily know if the resources and things like that would be there for me.
I think it was definitely an expectation to go to a highly ranked school from a private school like Durham Academy. You are expected to go somewhere. Also, it's only 100 people in our class. There's gonna be 10 that go to Duke, 10 that go to UNC.
It's like a challenge.
Yeah, 5 wherever. There's gonna be people. So if you even thinking about you making your list and stuff, you're like, oh, I gotta go somewhere that's highly accredited or thought about. You know what I'm saying? I think also, I think you mentioned threshold. Us being together, I feel like our threshold is different. Experiencing that on a daily basis, those microaggressions, those different events that happen where it's I know y'all know about the anonymous social media app, and that dropped, and they were on the server basically just making jokes all about us, specifically attacking us with racism one-on-one. It was bad. There's things like that happen, but we expected to deal with it and keep it rolling. So even in college, PWI, you're yeah, you feel like you got a place, but you're supposed to keep it rolling and keep doing your thing in order to get whatever it is that you want. So yeah, I think it was considered to go to HBCU, but it's I didn't come here to just to do that. And I guess it sounds bad thinking about it that way, but that's how they made it seem.
Mm-hmm. I didn't apply to any HBCUs, and if I was the same person I am today, I definitely would. I'm definitely looking at Howard. Definitely looking at
Howard winning right now.
Yeah. Definitely looking at a few other schools. And when thinking why I didn't even apply to HBCU, it definitely goes back to a few things. One, high school we went to, Durham Academy, is very competitive in nature. So when you're looking around at the class and you see 5 people going to Harvard, 10 people going to Duke, I'm a victim of that. I went to UNC, so I was one of those people. It's just I have to. There's a pipeline. There's a structure. There's a plan that I have to do, that I have to be a part of, to reach wherever I want to go. Whether I want to be a doctor, a lawyer, businessman, and I'm looking around no one's doing this from DA to Howard to whatever X, Y, and Z field. So that's why I was just I looked around, and I was there's no one else doing that, so I guess it's not the way it's done. And it's crazy because my mom went to Central, and even then I was just maybe being from Durham had a little bit impacted me not wanting to stay in Durham. Granted, I went to UNC, so I didn't really go too far.
You want to go there?
I'm in Durham right now. I can't really say much, but it was definitely it was brainwashing. Honestly, it was brainwashing. I'm looking around, no one's going to HBCU, so I'm thinking, what's wrong with HBCUs? Oh, they don't give us good opportunities. I'm not gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
So why would I go?
I'm bringing all types of schools in to talk to students.
Yeah, they would have information sessions. I didn't hear one about Howard. Not one. Not one.
Nothing.
And it was also something about if I went to one of those information sessions, if they had one, or I went to Howard, I went to Central, I went to Hampton, FAMU, any of those, it also felt like my white counterparts would expect me to do that. They're just oh, you're black, so yeah, HBC, that's probably your route. Mm-hmm. And so I felt I had something to prove. It's nah, I'm not going to HBCU, I'm not going to HBCU, I'm competing with y'all. I'm at UNC, I'm at, blah, blah, blah. So it had something to do with that for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you feel that in the, when you were there, or more recently? Like that you were, you know what I'm saying, like brainwashed.
I didn't explicitly feel brainwashed. I mean, I felt it when I was there, but I didn't. It's not like it was. I sort of brushed it off.
Yeah.
Like I guess I couldn't even tell if it was brainwashing or it was my actual independent thinking at the time. So maybe it's hidden now. Cause I definitely would have at least applied to HBCUs. But I didn't apply to any, which I feel like, I don't know. I feel like that's not necessarily like a terrible thing, but I feel like I should have at least given them an opportunity to tour the school, learn more about a program. And I feel like if I went to public school, I definitely would have. Because I mean, people are naturally products of their environment to an extent. It ranges for like how much of a product you are to your environment. But like, if you go to a certain school, if I went to a predominantly black school, I'm pretty sure I would have applied to HBCU. So I guess I was a pawn to the environment I was in, but and I definitely do regret at least not applying to HBCU, I would say.
I applied to Morehouse, and I really liked it. Like, it was, like, had things I want to study, community, perfect distance from Durham, but I ultimately didn't go because people were like, oh, like, what are you going to do after that? You're like, I don't know. Same thing I'm going to do when I go to this other school, like, apply for jobs and figure it out. But I would have gone. And I mean, I'm guilty too. The same thing. It's like, well, dang, I got these peers going to UNC and NYU and like, I better go to this school. Like, you're like, oh, I'm lucky to get accepted to Duke. Like, I better go. As opposed to like, cool, that's a privilege or whatever, but I may feel better somewhere else, like with my people. So I don't know. It's just like I don't know if I had that mentality at 17. You applying to school, right? Especially like you said, they're not at the fair, like showing you that that's what you can do. You ain't thinking about it. Yeah. I think that's also though, like, I think that's corporate, bro. Like, people are like, all right, you graduate school, you better go get that job making that amount, and then you just like keep trying to prove, like, be in these institutions and like, or keep climbing and move to the next one. Like, maybe that ain't for me. It's for some people. It's for a lot of people, but like, it ain't for everybody.
I do think it's a real thing, though. I mean, I think you have Howard, you have Kenny Blakely, and Tyler Dorton at Howard, you have Coach Lavelle here at NCCU. You have a lot of big-time coaches, and I think they're out here now in these gyms wearing some fly gear. You know what I mean? I think kids have to know something. I think just like all of you just said, it's the knowledge of HBCUs. Like, a lot of these kids coming up right now, they still don't know about it. The same way y'all weren't presented the opportunity to say, oh, this is how, let's go take a tour of Howard, Hampton, all these schools. Basketball teams, like CP3 camp, they used to come up here to do a campus tour. They would come to Duke, they would go to Carolina, they would go to State. You think they stopped at Central? Yeah. No. But if they would have did that, I mean, I remember Quincy Miller and John Wall, they were part of that tour when I was in college. If they had stopped there, they might have, oh, dang, what's this? Oh, it's an HBCU. They walk down campus. Oh. Oh.
Let me schedule my official.
It might have happened. Right. It might have happened. So, like, for me, I definitely think it's happening. I think it's not there yet because of the facilities. You talked about that, the facilities.
But I think before facilities, it's money.
It's funding.
So it's funding. So I feel like but even before funding, it's the people funding it.
Yep.
So like the root is like people say, we say facilities, we say funding, but it's really the people funding it and funneling money in order to get those facilities.
Yep.
So like, and I don't know how you fix that problem. I don't know how you expedite that problem.
I think it starts with the presidents of the schools and the boards of the schools. And then what are they doing to bring in more money? But sports bring in more money at all levels. Duke basketball, Duke football, we bring in so much money for the school. Duke basketball wins, Duke University wins. Right. Their enrollment goes up. Right. Zion Williamson commits to Duke. I bet you 5,000 more kids sending their applications to go to Duke because they want to be close to Zion. It ain't because of Duke.
Right.
So if Central basketball starts winning, if Central basketball got Zion Williamson,
Right.
enrollment goes up, money goes up. So the presidents and the boards of all the HBCUs, if they want to win, they have to create an environment for sports first, and then build around that. That's how you're gonna create more money. What up?
Yeah, and like, what would it take? Facilities and money? And
Yeah, definitely. I would want to have not right away the same resources, but I'd have to have some of the resources that I would have at a PWI to be able to take care of my kids the same way they're being taken care of across the street. I don't want them to come to school and be like, dang, I just left the hood and I'm right back in the hood. They got a scholarship, they're D1 athletes, they shouldn't feel like that. So I want them to have some nice things, some good things, whether it's gear, whether we sign with Jordan or Puma or any of these brands to make sure my guys look good too. I think that's what it would take for me to go and take an HBCU job and get our kids. I mean, when I was coming out of high school, I was the number 6 player ESPN. I would have definitely went to HBCU because if you're a one and done, it does not matter where you go.
They're gonna find talent.
They're gonna find it. If Zion Williamson went to Central, Jason Tatum went to Central, Howard, Hampton, wherever, A&T, they're still going exactly where they got drafted. It's not that they dunked on somebody at Carolina or that they played versus NC State. It's not about that. The NBA people are cocky. They're not watching these games like, oh, he killed college. He's great for us. No. They see the potential and they know that their level, they're going to be great. So as soon as the door opens and those things change at these schools, somebody's going to do it. It's not going to be one. Like Maker started it, but you see it kind of boom, and then
it's gonna be like I feel like they need like a super team sort of thing.
It's going to take
Do y'all think that like that took a hit, like with Howard's like experience like this year? Like, I mean, obviously like it's tough. Like the staff was like kind of like new there, still getting stuff like together, and like had a hell of a start. Like the transfer from like Purdue and stuff like that. But like they had like a rough start. Like this year, like lost to Queens, which is like a really good D2 school. But I mean, nonetheless, like D2, like. I don't know, like, dudes might be looking at that like, damn, like, he was the one that took a chance and, like, shit, like, how much did it really work for him? Like, I know one of my guys at the Barbershop School that I'm really close to, he decommitted from Howard, Coolwell. And, like, it's crazy because when he committed, like, we had, like, a workout that night. I was like, it feels good, like, doesn't like to be committed and stuff. And he was like, yeah. Like, people keep telling me, like, I don't know, like, how much, like, they're necessarily going to have, like, the tools for you to, like, succeed in terms of, like, weight room and stuff like that. Like, things, like, to go, like, pro. And it's just, like, interesting looking at it from that perspective. Like, he committed, like, before the season. So, meanwhile, he's watching them, like, lose to Queens and kind of, like, struggle a little bit, like, early on. And all of a sudden, he sees, you know, McCurry getting injured. And, like, they kind of just shut their season down and didn't go the way that they wanted to go. And he ended up, like, decommitted from Howard. I mean, he was getting looks like Cincinnati, got offers like Cincinnati, VCU, ended up committing to Buffalo. I mean, it's just like interesting. Like, I want to know like how much is that going to have like impact? Like, I don't know.
I think people got to get over themselves a little bit too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you are a top 10, top whatever player, and you're choosing to, part of it has to be that you're trying to do something for more than you. Like, you're like, okay, I'm thinking about who the class after me, what this might do for the class after me and get more athletes. Like, I mean, I'm not in, but I just feel like a lot of high school athletes right now are like doing it for the clout or doing what's cool at the time, and it's like cool to make announcement dates about whether you might transfer or not. You know what I'm saying? It's like stick to like whatever it is you're doing and why you're doing it, rather than like. I think it's a little selfish of people to be like, oh, they improved themselves in 5-6 months of playing and not doing that.
It's going to take a village to really create the change, just like in life and everything that we've been talking about. It's not going to just take one person. The same way LeBron's then changed so much in the NBA that now it's really a players' league. The owners hate it. The owners hate it. The players have so much control as far as where they go, where they get traded to, free agency. The owners hate it. They've lost control, and then they ain't getting it back. they're not getting it back. There might be another lockout in about 5 to 10 years. Unless the players win that too.
Yeah.
So when you talk about this, when that one high school player that's really a real leader gets 4 guys with him and say, yo man, we're doing this. Yeah, Howard might have gotten their butts kicked the year before, but if we do this right, the next Fab Five gonna do it right. Okay, now we're gonna get 5-star recruits to follow our lead. It's gonna take real leadership.
That's gonna take a courageous young man, or young women if they want to do the same thing in their respective sports, to commit, to get a village to commit to HBCU. When you see the facilities, when you see the ESPN scheduled you 8 times this year, when you see how people treat you on campus and stuff,
Go
to
you
force-
see the wall of Jordans and
right,
stuff.
right, to forego all of that, to be like, I want to be a trailblazer in this sport. And it's like, that's a lot of pressure. One, because once that village, I think it's going to happen eventually. But once that village, once that actually happens, there's a lot of pressure because that experiment has to work. Has to work. Because if that doesn't work, now you're starting from day one, and you're going all the way back.
Yeah,
And-
they gotta scrap it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And I had like a project for this last school year when I was a junior, and I don't know. So Grambling State, they had a great football program. They had a coach called Eddie Robinson. He was like a Hall of Fame college football coach, and they produced like 30 to 40 NFL players. Like it was like a pipeline. The HBCU in Louisiana, and they were producing year after year after year after year. And then something changed. This was in like maybe the 70s, 60s, 70s. Something changed, and then the recruits just started going to predominantly white institutions. I think those HBCUs stopped getting as much funding around those times. And there was a big discrepancy between the facilities. Like before, it was a little bit more even. And people just started going, those recruits started going to PWI. So like, we have to keep this, as much as we can, this talent in-house. Like between like black businesses, between black schools. If we keep the talent in-house, we're gonna see production. And we're gonna see more money come in, and it's gonna be a never-ending cycle. But it's important to keep that talent in-house as much as we can, for sure.
Man, look, if there's any generation that I bet money on to do it, it'd be this generation, Gen Z.
Yeah.
Gen Z gangster.
Gen Z, like, I quit.
Yeah, we just
Y'all Gen Z, yeah, y'all gangsters. This generation gangster, like they fearless. They got heart. They got courage. Sometimes a little out of control, but they you know what I mean? Like, but they step out there and they create change.
You're in education, like non-sports. What do you think is like the biggest need for change, or like what have you seen over the past year that's good that you might want to fix?
Bro, it's hard because it's like, what level did you start at? You start elementary, middle school, high school, college, right? So I was reading this book, Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, right? And it's talking about what's not only the level, but again, ability to maintain these values that we have, or to instill these new ways of learning and keeping us on track. Because they said early on, it's like from 3rd to 5th grade, black boys are still on track and they're competing with their counterparts. Then they fall off. Why do we fall off for it? Whether it's because of sports, or it's because getting kicked out of class, you're looked at differently. That's around the time you looked at it very differently in schools, whether because you might be a little more active or hyperactive, so you might be looked at as a troublemaker, might be singled out more. That can be very discouraging for a lot of students. That can go a long way in terms of their production or their progression overall. I think like I said, a college advisor, it was mainly trying to get those students who are even thinking about college to apply somewhere, wherever it is, to apply somewhere, and on their comfort level. So if you're a student who has been around black students all your life, like at HBCU, you should go visit those schools. So I realized I didn't take my first college visit to my halfway through junior year of high school. And that was because I went with a white family. Like they were like,
They've been going since
exactly.
9th grade.
I never considered that before. I didn't know people were going on college visits like that. I mean, and even my other friends from public school, they weren't going on college visits really, unless it was scheduled through the school. But I know like at DA there was literally a summer where you went on college visits. we don't have access to those things. So I think it really starts with not only these types of conversations, but things like last summer with the volunteering and everything. Because there's students that reached out to me and families that wanted help for even preparing for college. It starts in because preparation for college starts early. It's not just junior year of high school start applications. It's like freshman year on, you have to start exploring what your options are. I think it takes a serious reform in terms of how we look at Black students and assisting them, and not only that, but the families, what you can do in order to support them in the classroom. So if that's sports, giving time for sports and academics and tutoring, all that stuff, we have to find a way to cultivate a different culture rather than just putting so much emphasis on one thing, like one ticket out of whatever situation we're in.
Would you say that as a culture we put like too much of an emphasis like on sports, making it seem like sports is like maybe the only way? I feel like a lot of people like might have like that mentality. Like we were just talking about one of the guys that like we grew up with in Durham, transferred like a couple of times. This is probably like he's fourth, fifth year,
Yeah.
and like he just transferred now to Livingstone. Like we just talked about like, when is it that you're like, dang, like maybe instead of like going to a basketball camp, like let's say you go to like 3 basketball camps like in the summer, maybe like for one of the camps, let's go to like a computer science camp or something. Like, do you think like as a culture, since like you are like in education, would you like to see like not a switch, but more so like an emphasis like on that education piece?
Well, I think that would be ideal, but the problem is social media makes it seem like that's the only thing. You think about how big like pro sports are, how it makes it seem like one, it's plausible for everyone, and two, like how much money you're making off of it. I'll say not everyone can be a hooper. It's what, 60 draft picks in the NBA each year? You gotta think how many student athletes are trying to go pro each year.
And they don't all make it.
Yeah, they don't all make it.
It's
Not
not just
everyone's
the US trying to
guaranteed.
get to the NBA either.
Yeah, it's not just the US. That's
Even
the
players
whole-
making the Duke don't make it to the league.
Exactly. The top tier program, you might not make it. I don't know how you do that, because you gotta think, like Last Chance U, for example. We talked about that earlier. That makes it seem like it kind of glorifies the struggle that we have in order to get to that level. It makes it seem like it's a very real thing. So I think Last Chance U, like after like the 3rd season, they had like 4 players that made it.
Yeah.
It was like 60 players each year that go to that. But you only 4 make it, and we see the ones that, they don't tell you about the ones that end up in jail for, you can see those on YouTube that ended up in jail because they went back home and got in some trouble. You don't see all that stuff though. And that's the majority out of those because they put everything into that sport. Not to say, of course, sports can be a great outlet and everything, but I don't know how we get it to a better balance of like, we can do this, and we can also do this stuff.
You know, being inside of the institution, how do you think we can kind of leverage them and put more pressure on them to be more present, you know, in our schools, in the communities, in the neighborhoods? Because you're right, it's a challenge. You know, everywhere we look, everybody's going to the league. You know, I'm going to the league. You know, not you know, but you know, how do you think we do that, or what are some just kind of thoughts?
I would say, so like going to UNC, it starts with the students giving back as well, and then also having the faculty in position to give back. So like I worked with Upper Bound at UNC, which is a program for minority and low-income students throughout North Carolina, making sure there was a full summer program, but throughout the year they had tutoring, access to resources, and school visits. So like last summer, or 2 summers ago when I was working with it, we visited PWIs and HBCUs all up and down the East Coast throughout the year. Something like that, though, they do have upper programs throughout the country, but you need programs like that in order for students to learn about their opportunities and focus on academics. And also, we did have athletes that were there too, some like even committed to different schools, but at least so they can see options outside of sports. But I think that also the number one thing is, like we talked about, is funding for those programs. So because that pressure, not everyone's going to feel that pressure. All those schools are to think, oh, we need this. Because a lot of schools think they're doing just enough for like us as minority and Black students. Most of the time, like we get to that campus, they do enough for us to consider the school and get to the school. And we get on campus, there's no support. There's no like tutoring center. There's no Black space where we can go to. So I think it starts with the students. As it's really us taking control and giving back so we can get more and more of those spaces.